Talking about the Supreme Court case 1982 NAACP versus Clairborne Hardware Company. This is an 8-0 decision. Thurgood Marshall didn't weigh in, so 8-0, unanimous. He didn't weigh in because I think there's a racial element. 1982 NAACP versus Clairborne Hardware Company. Now, this is going to say the holding for 1982 NAACP v. Clairborne Hardware Company is that nonviolent boycott. A nonviolent boycott is protected by the First Amendment. The elements of a nonviolent boycott. If it's violent, no, it's not protected. But yes, you're allowed to boycott. So Amy Klobuchar would like to hear that. She voted to criminalize the BDS boycott. So hey, Klobuchar, boycotts are legal in America. You stupid piece of shit. So fucking Joe Biden. Talk about a potato with aviator glasses. Jesus Christ. All those dementia attacks didn't work for that potato with aviator glasses. Potato with aviator glasses. Get in there. You're the next president. You're a potato? You got aviator glasses? Well, get the fuck on in there. Charles Evers, he's mentioned in the Brandenburg decision of... No, he's not. They're going to say... They're going to use Brandenburg decision to protect Charles Evers in the 1982 NAACP v. Clairborne Hardware Company decision because Charles Evers is the one that's part of the NAACP. He's leading the boycott. And he had said he did not want anybody to break his boycott, so he's yelling at his supporters. The racist whites were being boycotted, so they were thinking that he's being racist. You can't just, boycott the white supremacists. You can't just boycott white people. That's racist. And Charles Evers, in a speech, had threatened, if anybody breaks this boycott, I'll break your neck. So he's yelling at his supporters. Is he telling the truth? Is he not? We don't know. But the Brandenburg decision says that there must be imminent lawless action. So Charles Evers, did not have any actions in addition to his declaration of breaking people's necks. Like he didn't go around trying to break people's necks or organize it. It was just a, I'll break your neck, kind of a sarcastic sort of I'll break your neck, but maybe it's true. So it's kind of borderline. But the Brandenburg decision protects it because the imminent lawless action, was there imminent lawless action? Lawless action didn't commence. It didn't happen. And so, he's threatening to break their necks, but whether he did it or not, and again, that's to his own supporters. So this is kind of like... They're complaining, the white supremacists are complaining that, well, Charles Evers is sitting there threatening his own people. If his own people didn't like it, then they, shouldn't have supported him. Or maybe, broke the boycott and see what he would have done, see if he actually would have made good on his promise. Then we would have known if it was dangerous speech then, right, as soon as violence breaks out. But the Brandenburg decision said imminent lawless action, so therefore Charles Evers was, it's all right. The NAACP, Charles Evers, they even had watchers who would stand around town just to make sure that black people did not go into the business. And they said that was also protected too. That's okay. It's a nonviolent element of a boycott. It's nonviolent. You're allowed to have people on the street just recording your name. Oh, so-and-so went into the hardware store today. Is that all they're doing? Perhaps there's farther, perhaps there's more, but just those things... That was not enough to say that it was, dangerous speech, criminal speech. Okay, so that's only part of the case. It's not even the main part of the thing. It's going to be cited in the 2010 Holder v. Humanitarian Law Project, the 1982 NAACP v. Clairborne Hardware Company. The holding is that the state can regulate much of their economy, but nonviolent boycott is protected by the First Amendment. Therefore, the state cannot regulate a nonviolent boycott with judicial intimidation or police power. Therefore, boycott is legal. The First Amendment protects the right to a peaceful boycott. All right, let's get to the elements. So what the fuck is going on? Why we got this Supreme Court case, 1982 NAACP v. Clairborne Hardware Company. Why is this even going on? March 1966, black citizens of Port Gibson, Mississippi, Clairborne County, they presented white elected officials with a list of demands for racial, political equality, and integration. And then, when they didn't get it, several 100 black folks voted to boycott the white merchants. February 1967, 1 year after the boycott started, Port Gibson, Mississippi, was going to hire the first black cop, and then the boycott was called off. 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. is killed, and a young black man named Roosevelt Jackson is shot and killed by 2 white Port Gibson cops. So the city of Port Gibson, Mississippi, you know, the officials, they didn't listen, then they boycotted, then they hired the first cop, then they called the boycott off, and now we got some more, you know, MLK's got killed, Roosevelt Jackson just got killed. April 19th, 1968, Charles Evers leads a march to the courthouse and demands to fire the whole police department, and the demand clearly wasn't going to be met. All the police, y'all must just resign. All y'all need to be fired, and in a way, if, you know, Roosevelt Jackson, I don't know the case, but if it's just an innocent man being slain and none of the police officers arrest the man who murdered, then yes, I actually agree with Charles Evers. But crazy demand, of course, it was ignored. So the boycott was now reimposed. So April 21st, this is going to be 2 days after he led the march, Charles Evers makes a speech, and he says, if we catch any of you going into these racist stores, we're going to break your damn neck. There was even black hats and deacons who stood guard, making sure that nobody went into the racist stores. In at least 10 instances, there were some rumors or, you know, murmurings that blacks who had violated the boycott experienced instances of violence, including shots fired into their homes, bricks thrown through their windshields, and tires on their cars slashed. All these instances were undated, so they were thrown out, and they weren't allowed to go into the court proceedings. So you have to, you know, the jury will disregard everything I just said. Perhaps those things happen. Perhaps it's just a bunch of bullshit to, you know, disqualify them to you know, whatever. So October 31st, 1969, 17 of the merchants are going to sue in the Mississippi Chancery Court of Hinds County, and they're going to sue 146 individuals. So this is the white businesses. 17 of the merchants who are being boycotted are uniting together, and they're going to sue the NAACP, 146 individuals, also the Mississippi Action for Progress, the MAP, in state court to recover the losses that was caused by the 7-year boycott, 1966 to 1972, and to enjoin future boycott activity. Chancery Court said guilty to 146 individuals, imposed damages, and ordered the boycott to be over and done with. Of course, Mississippi courts, the lower appeals court, and the Supreme Court, they all agreed that it's not okay for black people to boycott against white merchants in order to achieve racial justice and or integration. Mississippi Supreme Court threw out one tort against malicious boycott prima facie. So, malicious. No, they're going to throw that out. You can't break that. You can't have a secondary boycott law. And they said it was passed 2 years into the boycott protest, so that's retroactive. They threw that out. But the three threw the Mississippi antitrust law out because the U.S. Supreme Court has seen fit to hold boycotts to achieve political ends are not a violation of the Sherman Act, after which our statute is patterned. And so he throws 3 parts of their, of their thing out. But ultimately, the Mississippi Supreme Court upholds this case. Oh, no. Okay. So a tort is a criminal contract law term. A tort is just a civil wrong. So, sorry. A tort is a civil wrong, so it's not a criminal or a contract wrong, but a civil wrong which can be sued. So if you have a tort, then that means you could sue somebody to get damages from them. Justice Stevens invokes the Brandenburg decision. He says blacks weren't liable in damages for their nonviolent protected political boycott. Stevens writes boycotts and related activities to bring about political, social, and economic change are political speech, occupying the highest rung of the hierarchy of First Amendment values. Stevens invokes the Brandenburg decision, saying persuasion must be directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and likely to incite or produce such action in order to be punishable via criminal law. Justice Stevens wrote that speech may even encourage or advocate lawless action, but it's unlikely to incite such action. Charles Evers was protected because of the 1969 Brandenburg decision. Boycott racist whites only businesses. You know, I'll break your neck. Judgment against Evers cannot be separately justified, nor can liability be imposed upon him on the basis of speeches that he made, because those speeches did not incite violence or specifically authorize the use of violence. His acts being insufficient to impose liability on him may not be used to impose liability on the NAACP as principle. Moreover, there's no finding that Evers or any other NAACP member had either actual or apparent authority for the NAACP to commit acts of violence or to threaten violent conduct, or that the NAACP ratified unlawful conduct. To impose liability on the NAACP without such a finding would impermissibly burden the rights of political association that are protected by the First Amendment. That was Stevens. Stevens said all that. 1982 NAACP v. Clairborne Hardware Company. Economic boycott is constitutionally protected under the First Amendment, along with speaking and writing and symbolic speech and a whole bunch of other. We're allowed to burn the flag. We're allowed to say, you know, fuck, cunt, piss, motherfucker, cocksucker, tits. We're allowed to have fuck the draft written on our jackets. We're allowed to have free speech. So when acts of violence are committed in conjunction with lawful expression, the court continued regulations must be sufficiently precise to impose damages upon those who are guilty of wrongful conduct. So, you know, you need to punish the acts of violence, but nonviolent, peaceful boycotts, you're allowed to have a nonviolent, peaceful boycott in America. That is, that's not even speech. That's like the absence of speech. So you're allowed to remain silent. You are not forced to go buy anything from anybody. So money is speech, right? So we're allowed to spend our money wherever the hell we want to spend our money. And a boycott is, a peaceful symbol. So if you are out in the streets, you can, stand out in the street. You can be peaceful. You can be peaceful. You could have a peaceful boycott. You could pass out literature and not shop at businesses and, shake your fist at people who are breaking the boycott. But you can't do anything more than that. So boycotts are protected by the First Amendment. According to the 1982 NAACP v. Clairborne Hardware Company.